Let me just talk about some of the interesting ideas that the survey has talked, and it calls them the new ideas on Indian economy. Now, though it lists 10 things, that overwhelmingly the focus is on wealth creation. Now, it has traced the history of wealth creation in India and pitched it in the context of private enterprise, suggesting that the government intervention should be limited in wealth creation. And most importantly, what it is saying is that we do not need to see wealth creators with distrust and suspicion. That is a very important thing in context of what has been happening. There are lots of businesses who are being investigated, and let me say for the outset, I want to clear it. If there is a wrongdoing, then that needs to be investigated, there is no doubt. And if we've had a history of crony capitalism, there is bound to be wrongdoing, and if the wrongdoing comes, there is a need to investigate that. Yet the prevailing sentiment should not be that everybody is, the entire business community is suspect, and so that is what something that the survey is cautioning against, that you start respecting wealth creation. And in fact, even Prime Minister in his 15th August address did mention about wealth creation. You can only have wealth distribution when there is wealth creation, right? So in that sense, the survey is very strongly sending a signal to the government that this needs to change. We need to not only we need to enable wealth creation, we need to also respect wealth creators, so that there is no suspicion or they are not looked after with distress. And in this context, it is also talking about what is the enabling environment. So it talks about a pro-business environment, distinguishing it from pro-cronyism that was there earlier, where established businesses conquered most of the resources, and it gives some nice tables and data to demonstrate how wealth destruction happened in this period when you had crony capitalism. So it is suggesting a pro-business approach where there is an equal opportunity for everybody to set up a business or work, and there is no established business do not take away all the resources or are favored in that sense. So on this issue of wealth creation, it is clearly saying that look, we need to promote it, and we need to also respect it, so that once the wealth is created, it is also distributed, and that is how the country is eventually going to achieve the target of 5 trillion economy. And it's a very strong signal. I think in my mind, it's probably the strongest signal that is coming out in the budget, that look, we need to sort this bit of the puzzle, that where businesses, there's a sense of some sort of unease among businesses about the environment that is there, so that needs to be addressed. Now, within this context of wealth creation, it is also talking about the role of the government. So government enabling this wealth creation, and in that respect, it is talking about privatization. It is talking about public sector banks. Now it devotes extensive 2 chapters to how public sector banks have been over the years, and how they have performed, and how in contrast the private sector's banks have performed, making a strong case that you need to impart more efficiency into private sector banks. Some people have even talked public sector banks, some people have even talked about privatization, that we need to just get out of these public sector banks. So that framework, it is clearly establishing that look, public sector banks have not in that sense delivered, and it's talking about much bigger banks, better banks. And at the same time, it is also then talking about privatization, clearly arguing that government is not an efficient business runner. So they give an example of how the privatized companies have performed, how their return on equity has gone up. So making a strong case for privatization, which is also one of the ideas for the budget, that unless if you don't get out of privatization, how are you going to raise resources to meet your expenditure needs when there is such a fiscal stress, and tax revenues are down. So survey also, this is another theme, that privatization. Then it talks about exports, and in there it is saying that it has put out this idea of assemble in India. We've been talking about make in India, now it is talking about assemble in India, which is kind of takes off from where we are on the mobile manufacturing. That it is largely what is happening is that we are assembling mobiles here, through various facilities that are here, and all the inputs are coming from outside. But it is saying that, look, even this is a starting. If we start manufacturing like this for the world, we can add as many as 4 crore jobs by 25 and another 8 crores by 2030. So it's saying that we need not in that sense, what the idea is that we need not look down on assembling this thing, that needs to be integrated with Make in India and given a stronger focus. So these then it also talks about it has a unique chapter on Thali, where it is looking at how the food prices have fallen over the years, So it has through a price of vegetarian thali or a non-vegetarian thali over a period from I think it talks about from 2015-16 onwards, how that price has declined over the years, to give an idea of how food prices have fallen over these years because of various measures taken by the government, production and all. So that is also a nice idea in terms of, we all know that food prices are down, but it's a good way of saying that, how this saving from lesser spending on food then allows household to spend more on elsewhere, and which kind of then benefits the economy. So these are some of the interesting themes that are there in the survey, and making a case for limited government intervention. Like it says about price controls, that's a strong theme, that government should not, even in case of drugs where we feel that prices are regulated of a lot of essential drugs, there is a case being made, look, if these prices were probably free and competitive pressure were there, probably the decline would have been more, So it has argued against intervention in the food economy, where the government is a big buyer, supplier, seller and everything. Similarly, it has talked about knee-jerk reaction like ban on exports. So it's a laying out a framework for, within the whole framework of wealth creation. It has created a nice construct in terms of respecting the wealth creation, in terms of pro-business policy, withdrawing government, and greater privatization, and also reforms of the public sector bank. Another interesting thing they have tackled, though I am not quite happy with the suggestion that I have given, is that the NBFC crisis that is there and what impact it has had. And one would have thought the suggestion would have been more on addressing the crisis, but they have suggested that survey says that you kind of create a index for these NBFCs, so that you have a warning of when the system is going down, or when there is stress, and then you are able to take corrective action about those things. So those are the some of the 10 interesting ideas that are there on the table in the survey, apart from the regular survey that comes out.